from the West Virginia Center for Budget and Policy. Seth, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I remember, was it last year that there was a fire at your apartment complex?
So it was 2 years ago, coming up on that anniversary. Time marches on, but grateful to be alive and grateful to be doing what I am doing with a great team and great coalition partners all across the state of West Virginia here at the center. And I'm happy to be back on the radio with you.
Sure. Great to have you. Tell us about the center for those who are new to our audience, what the Center for Budget and Policy does.
So the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy is a nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy and research organization. Our offices are located in Charleston, and we have been around for over 15 years. We didn't just start up yesterday. We are very active in analyzing tax and budget at the state level, right? The impact and the consequences of investing or not investing in this or that. We do a lot of safety net work, especially around like Medicaid and federal food assistance, SNAP, and have been recently really digging in to the numbers on kids in West Virginia. Like, what does it mean for kids in Berkeley County versus kids in other parts of the state when it comes to certain markers of their well-being?
Yeah, let's talk about this kids count data that you folks recently distributed. Is this a study that you guys work on every year, or was this kind of a new one?
So Kids Count has existed for a long time, right? So there is a Kids Count research affiliate in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and D.C., and so it's overarching a project of the Annie E. Casey Foundation. Mm-hmm. And what Annie E. Casey does is they partner with independent research organizations in all 50 states and those territories and D.C. And in this case, just this past year, we were chosen as the Kids Count designee. And so our senior policy analyst, Sean, who did all this research, decided to kind of put a unique spin on the Kids Count data book this year by highlighting county by county numbers for what we feel represents a good look at how kids are doing on the whole in your county compared to the rest of the state, so that lawmakers and other people with power over the future of our children in West Virginia can get a good sense as to what would be good from a policy perspective or what needs to be addressed from a policy perspective.
And what does this data tell us?
So on the whole, 25% of kids throughout the state are living in poverty, right? So about, on the whole, 1 in 5 do receive or are food insecure. On the whole, on the more positive side, there's only 2.6% of kids are uninsured. That's much lower than the national average, less than half. It's even better in Berkeley County. Only 1.8% of kids in Berkeley County are uninsured. And I'll come back to that to reinforce the importance of Medicaid in that particular argument. But there remain significant challenges for children as far as like investments in childcare and potential threats to the state budget and initiatives and institutions that support children and basically the future workforce of West Virginia.
Can I just quickly interject?
Sure.
How can any child in West Virginia be uninsured? I mean, are their parents just not smart enough to understand that you either have Medicaid or you have the ACA and every kid, or you have
chips?
John. Yeah, or you have chips. I mean, whoever's taking care of these kids needs to get them insured. I mean, there are so many programs that we have, thankfully, to make sure all children are insured in this state. We do a great job of it, obviously, with this. Now, these numbers, you said 2.6% of kids in West Virginia are not insured. How does that compare to our neighboring states? Any idea?
Off the top of my head, I don't have the exact numbers for you. I mean, I could look it up here, but it would take me a minute to kind of load it from the National Kids Count
roughly
data site, which you can. I mean, there is like literally a National Kids Count data site where you can go state by state by state. But just some quick initial research before I hopped on the phone, the national rate of uninsured children is 5.4%. So we are comfortably less than half of that. So, supporting, to me, I think everybody should be able to go to the doctor whenever they need to, right? If you've ever listened to me on the show or been on me with the show, that should not come as a major surprise to anybody. But what I will say is that throughout initiatives, specifically like Medicaid and CHIP, and making sure that parents have access to that, and making sure that specifically Medicaid remains properly resourced at the state level and funded, we have been doing a good job keeping children insured in West Virginia compared to the national average.
It's good to hear us be ahead, way ahead in something that involves taking care of kids. That's a beacon of light, a little bit of hope for us.
It's something worth protecting, and I hope this next legislature and governor take a look at that and realize this is something where we need to, keep it up, and in addition also step it up.
Seth DiStefano, our guest here. Seth, as I look at the Kids Count data book, it says the current data is from 2022. Is that accurate?
Some of it is. So, like the big picture state data, as far as how many kids statewide are living in poverty, how many kids statewide are food insecure, that comes from 2022. Just because I think the way that the census works and how the data is calculated and when it catches up, that's what you get. But there's several other data points. For instance, the education data points are from 2023, 2024 school year, right? Other data points, for when you get into the county level type stuff, are a little bit more pertinent. Like, how many kids are participating in SNAP comes from 2023.
It says that as of 2022 in Berkeley County, 1 in 7 kids has food insecurity, and 1.8%, as you mentioned before, are uninsured. 13.4% of children are below the poverty rate. Now, the poverty income level rate for 2022 is $23,030 annually for a family of 3. I don't know how you live on $23,000 for a family of 3.
Well, you live because the state provides rent assistance, electricity assistance, a no-charge phone, food assistance, all that. That's how you live on that, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we need to do something to bring these people up. I mean, there are so many resources. I think one of the big problems that we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, is people do not know of all the resources that are out there to help children. When I see that 2.6 number, I'm like, wow. There are resources in this state, so every child should be insured and be able to go to the doctor anytime they need to.
Seth?
So I think you bring up some interesting points. So I'm going to kind of disagree maybe with one and then kind of pivot and sort of agree with another and then offer a policy solution if I may be as bold.
At least I got half of one.
Yeah, right. No, I think that I don't think anyone, having to rely on very, very meager federal food assistance. SNAP does not pay for much, right? SNAP benefits have not been adjusted in quite some time and have not really kept up with inflation. And it really is a supplement. So you really don't get a ton of food for any family of 3, living right around or below $23,000 a year. Most people just kind of survive at that level. And to kind of more to the question you asked before about our neighboring states, I kind of want to put this out there because, in a way, you are correct. $23,000 a year for a family of 3 is just, I don't know how anybody would do that, right? Even with the median state income at $54,000 a year for a family of 3 would be very difficult to be able to provide the things to help your kid get ahead. And so I think one of the solutions that really needs to be taken seriously, especially when you look at our surrounding states, is raising the minimum wage. Right? If you want that $23,000 for that family of 3 to immediately be more, right? That's the best way to do it. And we are clearly falling behind a majority of our neighboring states in this particular policy area. I believe Maryland, according to the Economic Policy Institute, is currently at $15 an hour. Virginia is at $12.41, and Ohio is at $10.70. West Virginia is $8.75. So, for that family of 3 making $23,000 or less a year, and for other families struggling, with low income or just outright poverty, really the fastest way to address that is to raise our minimum wage to be competitive with 60% of our surrounding states.
Seth, I'm just going to disagree vehemently at this point. I'm giving you 0 on that. I don't agree. I mean, if you look around, there's no job in the eastern panhandle of the state that pays anywhere near the minimum wage. Minimum wage is a minimum.
Keep in mind, John, that he's referring to
he's
information from the entire
whole
state.
But what I'm saying
the
is
entire state doesn't pay the same wage as the eastern panhandle.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is it's telling me that people need more education, that we need more opportunities created. We need more better businesses in the state. If you're working fast food, you need to be doing something to better yourself so that you're not working fast food anymore. I don't think the minimum wage makes that much of a difference in West Virginia. And I mean, right now, if you go to the middle of the state, people can barely afford stuff. So if you make a small business, all of a sudden a fast food or a restaurant has to pay somebody $15 an hour instead of $9, then the cost of the food's going up 30%. People are having trouble affording it anyway. I think it's counterintuitive. I think we need to build people up, not give them more, not force people to pay people who have no education, no desire to be better, pay them more money for what?
I mean, if you want to lift families out of poverty, raising the minimum wage is a fact that it will do it. Like, there's absolutely no disagreeing with that whatsoever. To the point that, like, somehow raising the minimum wage is going to make, every business owner, non-competitive right out the bat. Our neighboring states that have done this, and most states do it incrementally. They don't go out and say, well, we're going to go from $8.75 to $15 starting in 3 months, right? What they'll do is they say, listen, we're going to go to $8.75 to $10 on January 1st of next year. On January 1st of the year after that, we're going to, kick it up 50 cents more and 50 cents more until we hit a certain number. So, like, I honestly, just to the point we were discussing, that family of 3, hovering around $23,000 a year. If we truly want to make a difference quickly, right, and there are other things we can do as well, child care assistance, investing in a tax code that supports working families as opposed to the wealthiest few. If you really want to make a difference quickly for families struggling on the poverty line, raising the minimum wage is a guaranteed way to accomplish that.
But if you have a two-person household,
I don't want to go back and forth on the debate on how we lift people out of minimum wage. Hold on. I want to get the Jefferson County information in there too. Food insecurity in Jefferson County, 1 in 10, and for uninsured kids in West Virginia, it's at in Jefferson County 4.1% and 11.5% of children below the poverty level in Jefferson County too. So their numbers are actually worse than Berkeley County's numbers in Jefferson County too. Go ahead, John. I'm going to give you
If you have 2 people in a household, 2 adults in a household who are actually working full time at $8.75, that would be $36,400 a year, not $23,000. What I think we have is we have a lot of people who aren't working. We need more jobs. We have a lot of people that the minimum wage is $36,400 for 2 people. It's $18,000 for 1. At $36,400, people are living, better. I mean, not great, but a lot better if they actually had a job and they were working at that minimum.
In Morgan County, it's 1 in 6 food insecurity, 1.4% uninsured kids, but 17.4% below the poverty line, which is interesting. So Morgan County is actually doing better with uninsured kids and food insecurity, worse with children below the poverty level. Matt Miller, go right ahead, sir.
Seth, let me ask you, the kids count data you said, how often does it come out? Is this a yearly thing?
Yes, it will. Yeah, a yearly update on the demographics regarding children. I haven't talked to Sean about if he plans any new twists, but we are also as an organization open to if people are interested and they have questions. Hey, could you tell me how kids are doing in this particular area? That we didn't do this year, we really hope you will communicate that to us because we will look into it. That's something that we want the data book itself over the years to be responsive to the concerns of communities across West Virginia.
Do you ever consider in the data is a part of the book as it comes out each year, maybe a 5-year window? Do you ever look back and, in other words, can we see for over the last 5 years where in the state we are maybe making good positive inroads in certain areas and other areas maybe where we certainly need more work?
I'll bring it up with the research folks for sure.
Yeah, I wondered. I thought that would be fascinating, hearing these numbers for where we are now, what in the next 5 years, if we're still at those same numbers, then clearly it would seem that there would need to be some work done that can help us to improve in those areas. Is there a particular part of the state that obviously we consider, the economic engine of West Virginia right now is in the Eastern Panhandle? Where are those areas of the state that are also, kind of doing well, and other parts of the state that maybe are not?
Yeah, no, I think a 5-year kind of look back, and then more of like a hyper geographic focus, are things I'm more than happy to bring up with Sean and the leadership team, and we'll get back to you on that. I mean, we kind of plan this throughout the spring and summer. Once we survive session, more or less.
Yes, survival is important.
Yeah, but no, that's an outstanding suggestion, Matt. I'll bring it up with Sean this week for sure.
Let me follow up. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. There is a problem, and it definitely needs to be addressed. We need to help the kids. Are there, do you guys, the Mountaineer Food Bank and stuff, I know a lot of families are really depending on food banks at this point. Is there any idea, is there more stuff that can be done on that end? Is there more money that can be put into helping people's food insecurity in the state? Because I know it's a huge problem.
I think, Mountaineer Food Bank are great coalition partners when it comes to food insecurity. I think that charity of itself is not the solution, right? You don't want to force people, and this is not anything against our food banks or our food pantries. What West Virginia really needs are strong institutions that help provide economic security for families just right off the get-go, right? I think we need a better tax code that supports, working class, lower income and families really struggling with poverty, as opposed to what we've seen in the last 20 years. And I say 20 deliberately. When Democrats were in charge, they did this. Republicans have been in charge for about a decade, and they've done this too. This obsession with tax cuts for businesses and people at the top that just really haven't served us well, right? And have chipped away at a lot of the institutions that are important for children. We have got to get I know we're running low on time. We have got to get serious about providing child care for families. I know that, most of the people I know in Charleston who have kids, both parents have to work. One parent will work, a pretty good job almost exclusively to pay for childcare. It's very expensive where you can find it. And a lot of places you can't find it at all. So I think that's something that is also, kind of holding us back, because with quality childcare also comes early childhood development, which leads to, better fourth grade reading attainment and better graduation rates and all these better things down the line. So yeah, I think there's a lot they can do, but it all starts with investment, right? Like the state does have to prioritize, and they do have to start placing resources, and by resources I mean money, in initiatives that are guaranteed to support better outcomes for children.
I agree 100% with you on the child care. I'm not a favor, as I've said, I'm not a favor of the wage increases, because I don't think businesses should have to be the arm that helps the state to support their citizens. I think the state has the money to provide more child care. People can get out there. People can get more education. People can get better jobs. There are opportunities for everyone to better themselves, not having it given to them and making a small business say, okay, you're paying people $9 an hour to do this job. Now you got to pay them $12 an hour because the state says you have to. They weren't doing a great job at 9. They're going to do the same job at 12. I don't think it's fair for a state to mandate that. Whatever the market will bear. Look at what Sheetz is paying now here in the Panhandle. Sheetz is paying $18, $19 an hour to start because they have to. Because if they don't, they won't have employees. The market has made it where people are being paid more.
John, we're not debating minimum wage, the goods or evil. Well, right now it's really more about the child data. I want to make sure we get it all in before we get to the end of the hour here. And Seth, what are your plans with the state legislature this upcoming session in 11 days with this data and advancing any legislation?
So, I think as far as, advancing, that's kind of one question. But I think the bigger question is kind of surrounding Governor Morrissey's proclamation that, we have a $400 million budget deficit. And we specifically mentioned Medicaid and public education as potentially having a structural budget problems. And so my hope is to encourage lawmakers both in the Eastern Panhandle and throughout the state is to force Governor Morrissey to specify what he means by that, right? 40% of kids in Berkeley County, almost half of kids across West Virginia receive their insurance, are able to go to the doctor because of Medicaid, right? So when Governor Morrissey identifies Medicaid as a place of potential cuts or a place where there's a structural budget deficit, is that what he means, right? He needs to be specific about that, and I think we're going to push lawmakers to make sure there's specificity about that, and that around the public education system too. West Virginia, we have a lot going on with public education. I think that there is some interest in updating the school aid formula. There have been some comments about maybe possibly making some adjustments to the Hope Scholarship. I think you'll see us there, kind of in that debate, hopefully. And then we'll see what comes down the road. I think a lot of people are waiting to see kind of what the governor proposes specifically, right? So, to his credit, Governor Morrissey has said he will bring back the 6-year budget forecast. I think that's a good idea. But we are eager, and I think lawmakers additionally are eager to hear more specifics. It's one thing to say, well, we want to get rid of regulation, right? Like, which ones? You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to, kids, there are a lot of regulations on the books that are designed to protect children. And a lot of times those regulations, unfortunately, came about because of a situation that wasn't real good. So I think that's where you'll see us kind of in the mix. But again, we're eager to hear more, specifically around very specifics as to what the governor and leadership want to accomplish.
And much of that, I guess, will be forthcoming during the State of the State address I guess that's in 10 days. Seth, I want to thank you very much for the information you provided this morning. Where can our listeners and viewers go to find out more about the kids count data?
You can just go straight to our webpage, wvpolicy.org.
wvpolicy.org. Seth, thank you very much. Have a good day, sir.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This segment of our show today brought to you in part by Parsons Ford of Martinsburg. We became